Greco-Roman wrestling, at least in America, has a pretty unfortunate reputation for being a boring and unentertaining style, where if two wrestlers of equal skill meet, it's always low scoring and boring and just a regular pushing contest for 6 minutes. I don't think this is completely deserved, but with offense being limited to only upper body attacks, it is hard to get an advantage over your opponent and therefore hard to score against them. Thus, Greco-Roman matches tend to be low scoring. For instance, at the Paris Olympics, there were only 4 major matches that had a combined score of over 10 points across all 30 major matches contested there. The biggest combined score was 14. But if you're watching this video, you've seen the title, you've seen the thumbnail. You'd know that this match had a combined scoreline of 30 points, which should give you some idea of just how absolutely insane this match was. Indeed, this match is a bit of a unicorn as far as Greco-Roman wrestling is concerned. If you know a lot about Greco-Roman wrestling, you might be wondering how such a stupendous scoreline of 16-14 is even possible in a world-level medal match where both wrestlers are guaranteed to be really, really good and thus have really good defense. Well, I decided to break this match down. As this video is really long, I'll keep introductions brief. In red is Hayk Melikyan of Armenia. At 25 years old, he wasn't a prodigy, but not a veteran either. His best result was a silver medal at Junior Worlds in 2019, but this tournament was his first senior-level tournament he had ever wrestled in. In blue is Arsalan, slightly older at 29 and far more experienced. Arsalan used to wrestle for Iran and even made it on their national team, but then defected to Serbia in late 2021. Frustratingly, I can't find any actual reasons, so I'm just going to list some potential reasons up on the screen, and who knows, some of them might be true. Since then, though, he won Worlds in 2022, and then won a bronze medal at Worlds in 2023. With those brief introductions out of the way, now let's start with the match. For such a high-scoring match, the first minute had very little scoring action, which isn't to say that it wasn't intense. It was. After a few seconds, at 5:49 on the clock, Arsalan got an underhook with his right hand, then grabbed Melikyan's elbow and attempted a hip toss. It didn't work, though Melikyan was forced to his knees. He circled away from the throw, and the two wrestlers returned to neutral. For now, both wrestlers are trying to win the first period passivity point in the referees' and judges' eyes, in the top position and parterre that comes with it, which makes it easier to score. Arsalan does this by trying to control the center of the mat. Melikyan isn't giving it away easily. The referee asks for action from both wrestlers, but neither can find the leverage or hold good enough to create any scoring action so early in the 6-minute match. After another 30 seconds of this, due to Arsalan doing a better job controlling center, both the referee and the match judge decide that Melikyan has been the more passive wrestler, and so Arsalan is awarded a single point and given the advantageous top position in parterre. Now, so far, this has been a perfectly ordinary Greco-Roman match, with nothing out of the ordinary happening, and indeed, just over a minute into the match, nothing has happened to make a disinterested viewer think even for a second that this Greco match will be anything even remotely extraordinary. The extraordinary bit begins almost immediately after the match resumes. Immediately after the whistle sounded to resume the match, Melikyan turned into Arsalan, got to his butt, and attempted to escape. To any American viewers that watch predominantly folk style, this might not be strange, just a basic switch attempt, but in a Greco-Roman match, this is very unusual. In international wrestling, there were no points scored for an escape from bottom, and indeed there is a bit of risk to it, as you are putting yourself in a vulnerable position. Arsalan spun around, looking to put Melikyan on his back, but Melikyan got up to his feet, and the two kept wrestling, with Arsalan still up 1-0 from the passivity point. Mere seconds after, though, Arsalan attempted a duck under to secure a body lock to take Melikyan down with, but Melikyan defended well, sprawling his hips back to bring his torso down, and then secured a front headlock. After some maneuvering, Arsalan secured the body lock that he was looking for and used it to take advantage of Melikyan's high center of gravity by driving forward, lifting, and planting Melikyan on his back for a feet-to-back move. In Greco-Roman, this is worth 4 points. Melikyan, however, lessened the damage by immediately rolling Arsalan atop him to his back for an exposure of his own, but since both men were grounded, This action gave Melikyan only 2 points for a regular exposure, which brought the score, albeit briefly, to 5 points to 2, with Arsalan leading. Melikyan then got to his feet, still with the front headlock, and when Arsalan followed to his feet to drive through his foe to secure another body lock, Melikyan did what he couldn't quite do before, planted his feet underneath him and hurls Arsalan over him onto Arsalan's back with complete control for a 4-point move of his own, giving him a 6-5 lead. Arsalan quickly rolled off of his back to avoid Melikyan covering and pinning him. Arsalan then made a critical mistake, briefly glancing at the scoreboard to see what the score was after that flurry of action. Melikyan pounced on that brief lack of focus and attempted a head and arm throw. To his credit, Arsalan's reflexes were good enough to get his hips back and to avoid giving up another 4-point throw, but due to the sheer ferocity of Melikyan's attack, he was way out of position and conceded a 2-point takedown, bringing the score to 8-5 with Melikyan leading. Now on top of his opponent, Melikyan looked for a gut wrench to extend his lead. Melikyan got his arms around Arsalan and locked his hands, and after a few attempts of trying to roll Arsalan over, he finally got the leverage he wanted and executed a textbook gut wrench, exposing Arsalan's back to the mat for 2 points to bring the score to 10-5. Already an enormous scoreline. After the referee called a stalemate, Arsalan didn't get up and had clearly suffered an ankle injury sometime during the previous exchange. If you slow the video down, it becomes clear that Melikyan's drive to get the last takedown must have twisted his ankle somehow at 4 minutes 32, as you can clearly see his face in pain. After signaling an injury to the referee, the ref calls in the mat side doctor to spray some magic spray, or rather what it actually is, cold spray on the area to numb the area to blunt the pain and also stop any swelling. It's called magic spray, by the way, because it works so well and for how easy it is to apply, it's almost magical. After Arsalan signaled for the doctors to stop, he reties his shoe, gets up, somewhat compromised ankle and all, and the match resumes. The score is 10-5 Melikyan, with 4 minutes and 12 seconds on the clock, and slightly more than a minute left until the first period ends. Unsurprisingly, after such an explosion of throws, both men were pretty tired and need to recharge somewhat before any more high-amplitude action. Though even tired, Arsalan knew that he was down by 5 points and tried to score points however he could. He looked for a front headlock, but Melikyan was too quick and pulled his head out before Arsalan could secure the hold. Arsalan then started driving Melikyan around the mat and was just being more forceful. The ref gave Melikyan a passivity warning, which, if followed by another call, could result in another forced parterre for Arsalan. Immediately after, Arsalan tried to duck under Melikyan to secure a body lock. When Melikyan managed to circle out, the ferocity of the attack had pushed Melikyan to the edge of the mat. A very bad position for Melikyan, as he would be pushed off the mat by Arsalan. To avoid getting pushed out, Melikyan turned into Arsalan and somehow managed to circle away from the edge of the mat without giving up a push-out point, showcasing his incredible nimbleness and dexterity. It's worth mentioning that the definition of a push-out is that one foot has to be completely out of bounds for it to be considered a push-out. As you can see, Melikyan was cutting it pretty close, with at one point only his toes being in bounds. But it was enough, and Melikyan managed to escape the situation without giving even a single point. The two men returned to the center with only 16 seconds left in the first period, and both opt to wait it out until the whistle sounds. At the whistle sounds, it indicated the halfway point of the 6-minute match, and both men headed to their corner, the score at the break being 10-5 in favor of Melikyan. Returning to their corners, both men were clearly tired, and their coaches did what they could to rest them to cover them the 30-second break time, such as shaking their wrestlers' arms out to prevent lactic acid buildup in their muscles and giving them some water to help them recover. During this time, they were undoubtedly giving them instructions on what to do, how to do it, what they noticed their opponent was doing, and just general strategy. After the allotted 30 seconds were up, the two men came back to the mat. After checking if both men were sufficiently wiped off, the referee signaled the match to continue and the second and final 3-minute period to start. With the second period about to start, I'm going to take this opportunity to zoom out a little bit and talk about Greco-Roman matches in general. High-scoring first periods like this one are rare in medal rounds, but not unheard of. The 2019 60-kilogram Greco-Roman World Championship final between Sergei Emelin and Kenichiro Fumita saw Emelin win a passivity call to secure top position in the first round, gut-wrenched Fumita twice to lead 5-0, before Fumita responded seconds later with a 4-point takedown, a 2-point gut-wrench, and then a thunderous 4-point lift from parterre to secure a 10-5 lead. In the 2023 60-kilogram Greco-Roman World Championship final between Arsalan Sharshenbekov and also Kenichiro Fumita saw an absolutely insane first period frankly even crazier than the first period of this match, where Sharshenbekov put a relentless pace on with massive throws on Fumita, while Fumita did his best to try and get counterpoints, but couldn't quite get the 4-point throws he needed to keep up with Sharshenbekov, and Sharshenbekov led at the break 11-6. But in both of the examples I just listed, and indeed in most matches with large combined score, the crazy high scoring only happened in the first period. In the World Championship match in 2019, after getting that 10-5 lead, Fumita locked the match down and prevented Emelin from scoring, resulting in a much less exciting second period, and 10-5 was the final score. In the World Championship match in 2023, Sharshenbekov stayed defensively sound, kept his elbows in to prevent Fumita from getting any deep, dangerous hold that might allow him to score, and the match ended the same way that the first period ended, 11-6. For this match, it would be a reasonable assumption, given the examples I just listed, to assume that in the second period with a 10-5 lead, Melikyan would tuck his elbows in, keep his wits about him, and make sure not to lose the lead via Arsalan's increasingly desperate attacks. Undoubtedly, his coach was telling him to take his foot off the gas and cruise to victory in the bronze medal. When I was watching this match live, at this point I was thinking along similar lines, even if my thoughts weren't as fully formed as what I've just said. But what separates this match from those matches, the thing that makes this match the craziest Greco-Roman match ever, is that didn't happen. In fact, in stark contrast to the other examples I've given, the second period was even more exciting than the first. To start the second period, Arsalan started strong, looking to push Melikyan around the mat while holding center. Just like in the opening minute of the first period, Melikyan wasn't letting Arsalan walk all over him, but Arsalan was clearly doing the better work. After about 25 seconds of this, the referee warned Melikyan for passivity, but no call was made. After a few more seconds of Arsalan pushing Melikyan around the mat, the ref warned Melikyan again for passivity. At around the same time, Arsalan secured an underhook with his right arm and Melikyan's wrist with his left hand and used that leverage to push Melikyan from one side of the mat all the way out of bounds, pushing him out for a step-out point, and worse, the referee decided that Melikyan was fleeing, as he wasn't really doing anything to stop Arsalan marching him off the mat. What this meant is that Melikyan was given a caution and another point was awarded to Arsalan, giving Arsalan 2 points total from the exchange. This brought Melikyan's lead down from 10-5 to 10-7, and now he had a caution against his name. After both men walked to the center, the match restarted. Arsalan quickly secured another right side underhook, left side wrist, and drove Melikyan towards the edge of the mat. Not wanting to give up another push-out point and likely another fleeing point, Melikyan pushed back against Arsalan but was clearly off balance. Arsalan capitalized on this perfectly by using his right underhook and drove towards an off-balance Melikyan, twisting his opponent's body with the left grip he had on Melikyan's wrist, putting Melikyan straight to his back for a modified hip throw for 4 points, giving Arsalan the lead 11-10. Melikyan twisted off his back and held onto Arsalan's arm, which is illegal in parterre, forced or otherwise, and the ref told him to let it go, which he did. Almost immediately after, Arsalan stood up and got to the center, but Melikyan stayed on the ground and rolled over, clearly in pain. After a bit, with Arsalan at least non-verbally telling Melikyan to get up, the doctors got there and after a bit sprayed some cold spray in Melikyan's chest. While it's hard to be sure, it looks like Melikyan had gotten the wind knocked out of him with that last throw, which makes sense as not only did he hit the ground, but the full weight of Arsalan and the power of Arsalan's throw landed directly on his chest. While these aren't what I, or even most, would consider large men, at 72 kilos, or about 159 pounds, they're not small either. Now, the combined total of somewhere in the ballpark of 330 pounds, plus the force of Arsalan's throw landing on Melikyan, is certainly enough to feel the impact. I'm not sure if he cracked the rib or just got the wind knocked out of him, but either way, after a bit, he got up to face Arsalan, and the referee restarted the match with just under 2 minutes left, with Arsalan leading 11-10. Now down, Melikyan needed to score in order to take the lead. After a bit of hand fighting, he got an underhook with his right arm. Not wanting to wait for Arsalan to get his hips back to defend against any of his attacks, Melikyan attacked immediately. Lightly faking a hip toss with his underhook to get Arsalan to brace against that, Melikyan quickly switched his attack and drove Arsalan to his right to get him to his knees, then covered Arsalan's back to get better leverage, to then put Arsalan to his back. Unfortunately for Melikyan, due to Arsalan's knees touching the mat, it wasn't a 4-point feet to back move, but it was enough for a 2-point exposure to give Melikyan the 12-11 lead. After Arsalan fought out of a front headlock position, the two wrestlers were back to neutral. However, almost immediately, not giving Melikyan any chance to rest, Arsalan got a right side underhook. With Melikyan having too upright a posture, Arsalan managed to get underneath him and use that leverage in his superior holds to drive Melikyan out of bounds for a clean push-out point. This burst of power tied the match 12-12, and Arsalan had the tie-breaking criteria. As Melikyan adjusted his knee sleeve out of bounds, Arsalan crouched in the center, grinning, staring right at his opponent, almost taunting him. After fixing his knee sleeve, Melikyan strode into the center, undaunted. The referee blew his whistle, and the match restarted, with Arsalan leading by the slimmest of margins, with just over 90 seconds left. As soon as the match restarted, Arsalan looked to control the center, and was also looking for underhooks to set up takedowns. While he had the lead, it was by less than a point. Should Melikyan get even so much as a step-out point against Arsalan, he would take the lead. Arsalan was looking to extend the lead, but too big a risk could cost him the match. Melikyan, on the other hand, was desperately looking for points. At 107, he looked for an arm drag, but Arsalan avoided it by circling away, and then as he was close to the edge of the mat, he deftly dodged Melikyan's follow-up push meant to get Arsalan out of bounds. With just 60 seconds left, Arsalan was still up 12-12 on criteria. After a long bit of hand fighting in the middle of the mat, with neither man getting any dangerous holds, both men got an underhook on the other's opposite side. Arsalan was looking to break Melikyan's underhook with his forearm, and Melikyan, grabbing Arsalan's underhooking tricep with his free arm, was looking to get leverage for an attack. Then, Melikyan went for the same takedown that had worked earlier in the match, dropping to his knees, then trying to rotate Arsalan to his back with an underhook to drive him down. But this time, Arsalan was wise to it, and circled out enough to get his knees down, then punched through with his underhook for a hip toss to send an off-balance Melikyan to his side. But Melikyan responded with incredible presence of mind, rolled to his butt, made sure to lean forward, grabbed Arsalan's arm, and got in between his arm and body and spun around it on his knees to face Arsalan. Both men stood up, and although the referee signaled a 2-point exposure for Arsalan, the judge, who had a better angle, white-paddled it, meaning no score. Somehow, in that entire sequence, not once did Arsalan or Melikyan's back break 90 degrees with the mat, which would have counted as an exposure. This is honestly an insane bit of defensive chain wrestling from both men, and to do that so late into such a crazy match is wild. In any case, Arsalan was up 12-12 via criteria. 33 seconds remained. Now, both men were exhausted, but were still pushing against each other. Melikyan was getting increasingly desperate, looking for attacks. At this point, in any normal Greco-Roman match, I'd expect that Arsalan would completely shut down even a chance of Melikyan coming back. Elite wrestlers, of which both are extraordinarily good at defending even the slimmest of leads. Arsalan was a world champion and multi-time world medalist. He was good enough to defend any point scored for 30 seconds. But as time kept ticking down, Melikyan was putting in the better work, but it still wasn't enough to score. If you're watching this video, and you've seen the thumbnail, you'll know that this isn't how it ends. 12-12 was not the final score. And that's true. This wild match had one final, insane scoring exchange left. With 18 seconds left on the clock, and near the edge, Melikyan managed to secure a front headlock, the same position where he had scored half of his points at that point. At the same time, Arsalan dropped down and got a body lock around Melikyan's torso. Arsalan got up and drove forward, meaning to plant Melikyan down to the mat for 4 to bury the match. Melikyan looked to lift with his front headlock around Arsalan's head and arm, and redirect Arsalan's energy to lift and throw Arsalan over top him for 4 points of his own, which would nearly guarantee his victory. This whole match was about to be decided by this one exchange. And then it happened. Melikyan's back hit the mat, and Arsalan rolled over top him, out of bounds, so as to be no counters nor chain wrestling from either party. The referee initially called it as 4 points for Arsalan, but Melikyan's corner immediately challenged that. And so, the entire match, more or less, went to the judges. Both corners thought that their man had scored, but only one could walk away with the lead, and it went to the officials, the match chairman and the match judge, and their precise review system to determine what the true score from the exchange was. The judges looking at this match were the best, and knew the rules and what constituted what score better than almost anybody. Certainly better than anybody watching this video, and absolutely far better than myself. After a long bit of looking at the exchange from multiple angles, slowing it down, and discussing amongst themselves, they finally reached a conclusion. I find it best to transcribe what the final verdict was, as in the video I got, it's somewhat difficult to hear the call.
And red came first in danger position with 2 shoulders down, and after counter-attack, scoring points 4 blue, 2 red, challenge 1.
After looking at this exchange for a long time to write and make this video, I agree with the call. Arsalan lifted Melikyan down onto the mat, and after Melikyan hit the mat, he put Arsalan over top him for 2 exposure points of his own. Either way, with Arsalan scoring 4 points and Melikyan scoring 2, the score was now 16-14, with Arsalan in the lead, with just 12 seconds left. As the match restarted, Melikyan needed to score points, as he was down by 2, but Arsalan was too good to get put in a bad position in just over 10 seconds. With 6 seconds left, though, Melikyan had to go big. He did so by trying to jump into a hold, but Arsalan was too good. He straightened up, wrapped his hands around Melikyan, and held him in the air. Even at this late stage, up with just mere seconds left, Arsalan could not get complacent. Melikyan had snatched a front headlock while on top of Arsalan and was squirming and kicking to try and loosen Arsalan's grip so that he could get his feet planted on the ground. Should Melikyan get his feet planted on the ground, he had Arsalan in a very bad position, and could potentially throw Arsalan for 4 like he had done in the first period. Arsalan could not let that happen, and so had to keep Melikyan up in the air. As the clock ran down, Melikyan kicked with his legs to loosen Arsalan's grip, pulled on Arsalan's head as hard as he could to lower himself, and even got his toes to touch the ground at one point. But it was all in vain. Arsalan, with his last of his strength, kept holding Melikyan in the air where he could do nothing, and the clock struck 0. The match was over. Melikyan bent over in sheer exhaustion, barely able to keep standing. Arsalan was far too tired to celebrate his medal, but managed to straighten himself to raise 3 fingers in the air, signifying that this was his 3rd world medal. An impressive accomplishment indeed. The winner was the former world champion, Ali Arsalan of Serbia, and he defeated Hayk Melikyan of Armenia by a final score of 16-14. A 30-point combined score, an incredibly high combined score in general, and something almost unheard of in a Greco-Roman medal match. The referee raised Arsalan's hand, declaring him the winner of the match, and the bronze medal that came with it. It was an incredibly hard-fought victory, and a deserved medal. But for Melikyan, though he was denied his first senior-level medal, I don't think there's much shame in losing what might be the greatest Greco-Roman medal match ever. With the match over, I just want to zoom out a bit and talk about just how rare a match like this is. I checked every single major match in every single weight class in Greco-Roman since the Tokyo Olympics just to see how rare a combined scoreline like this is, because I guess I don't have anything better to do in my life. The average combined score was 7.46 points. Putting all the matches into a histogram, you'll see that it starts off with 13 matches having exactly 2 points, the lowest combined score possible, and it slowly increases until it reaches 8 combined points, which is the most common score at 27 matches. Anyway, after that number of matches that reach the possible score falls off a cliff, until 17 combined points where only 2 major matches reached that score. Past that, there are the outliers. The score is so rare that there is space between them and the main body. There is one match with a combined score of 20, another at 25, but far past even a match of that level of action is this match with 30 combined points, meaning the only one like it. There is no other major world level match higher, and only a few have even come close. Both of the 2 matches that even came remotely close, the combined score of this match, one wrestler proved supremely dominant over the other, causing the match to end early. But this match was really close, with many lead switches, and in the end, Arsalan won by only 2 points. That's what I mean when I said earlier that this is a unicorn match. In the past 4 years, in 200 major world level matches, a match of this level of both scoring and competitiveness has happened in Greco-Roman exactly once. This match. So that's why I put so much effort into this video, this absurdly long and detailed breakdown of a 6-minute match that wasn't in the Olympics, and it wasn't even to decide who would become a world champion. Simply put, a match like it hasn't happened at an extraordinarily high level in at least 4 years. While I haven't looked, there is a reasonable possibility that a match like this hasn't happened at the world level in Greco-Roman since the introduction of the 2-point takedown in 2013. And I think matches this special, they deserve to be talked about. So yeah, that's it for this video. If you liked it, like and subscribe, I guess. Videos this long take a lot of work, and while I make nothing monetarily no matter what, it's really hard to convince myself this is worth the effort it takes, while the analytics show that nobody cares. So, yeah.